Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Every Closet. My name is Stephanie and I run the Every Closet, a Canadian full-time reselling business. We sell used clothing on places like Poshmark and eBay. We do consignment, we do thrifting, and that's how I make a living. So if that sounds interesting to you, hit subscribe. Down below, I share my whole journey with you guys. In today's video, we're continuing a series about how to get started selling on Poshmark for total beginners. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to source, how to approach the thrift store, how to know where to source, when to source, and then just like an overall, if I were starting again today, this is how I would approach it. I have way too many notes. Look at the notes. I was like, Ethan, I'm going to film a really short video and then you'll be able to edit it really quickly. And then I wrote all these notes. Never mind, it's going to be another long video because I am incapable of condensing my thoughts. Let's get into the tips. So, you're a total beginner. You don't know much about clothing resale. We're going to stick to clothing, by the way. Clothing, shoes, accessories, things like that. That is what I know about. The other sections are great and you should definitely check them out. But I know about stuff for reselling clothing, shoes, and accessories. So that's what we're sticking to in this video. Sourcing can mean a few different things and there are multiple ways to source, but what we're mostly going to be talking about in this video is going to a thrift store or a secondhand store, looking through there and buying things there that you can flip online for a profit. I would say one of my biggest tips is there are other ways to source. You can bulk source. You can do consignment, which we do a lot of. You can also do liquidation or pallets or like bulk buying. But my first tip is not to do that if you're a beginner. I don't think that's a beginner level activity. And honestly, I don't think it's a good activity at all if you happen to be a Canadian like myself. There are very few liquidation companies that aren't based in the States. And since they're based in the States, you're going to be shopping in US dollars. You're going to have to ship it to Canada, which is going to be very expensive. And you're also going to have to pay import duties and taxes on everything like that. By the time you're done, the pallet itself might have been less expensive than the shipping and getting it to you was. So it's a totally viable sourcing method, especially for Americans, especially if you have a good source, you know what you're doing, you trust this source. It wasn't like sold to you by some influencer or something like that. But there's a lot of controversy around liquidation and around pallets, and I've always felt much more comfortable having control over what goes into my closet. The first little section is when to go thrifting or when to go sourcing, and this is going to be different for everyone depending on your schedule, obviously, but I have a few small tips about it. One is you do not have to be the first person there. You don't have to be there first thing in the morning, but it is a lot nicer around then. The store is less messy because they just opened it and just cleaned it. Lots of people are stuck at work. They just put a bunch of stuff out from earlier that morning right before they opened. But you don't have to. They do put things out throughout the day, and especially around where I am. None of the thrift stores around me open like prohibitively early. So they all open at 9 or 10 a.m., which means there are lots of people there right at opening. So it's not necessarily less busy for me. If you have a thrift store around you that opens at 7 a.m., cool. Go when it opens. Less people will be there. But you can go all the way up till the end of the day, and I still see around my area at least employees pulling out new racks, putting out new stuff. So it kind of is something that they have to do all day because they get a lot of clothes. So don't worry about being there like first thing in the morning. Go when you can, although it can be sometimes a little bit nicer to be there in the morning than say post work. I do think there is a full day of the week you should skip if your thrift does this. I know Value Village and Savers do this, but if there's a seniors day, I would skip that day. It's crowded. People are getting a discount that I can't have. So like if you are a senior, go on seniors day because 30% off is better, obviously. I would also say it gets quite busy around like weekend afternoons between like 10 and 2 p.m. That can be quite busy. And so I tend not to try to go then, but like if that's when I can thrift, that's when I can thrift. Another tip is to plan around your schedule and your body. So make sure you are fed and watered. Maybe bring some snacks and water. Have comfortable shoes. Have eaten something before. You'll be less cranky. You'll have more energy. You could go for longer. Just make sure you're not skipping dinner to go thrifting, because I've done that a lot of times and it hurts. And it hurts the next day even. So I wouldn't recommend it. And lastly, about when to go, I would just say often. The more you go to a local thrift, be it a big thrift store or an independent one, you're going to learn their patterns, you're going to learn their sales days, you're going to make connections with the people working there. They'll know you. Maybe if they like you, they can even help you out a little bit. Sometimes that happens and that's awesome. So just visit often. I would go, especially in the beginning, for more frequent trips, less long trips. I just think you'll enjoy it more and you'll get to know little tastes of this thrift store and this thrift store. And I think it's important to get a vibe, especially when you're starting, of which thrift stores around you tend to have better items and have better sales and when to go to which one. And that way you can sort of give yourself a little schedule, like, oh, on this day I go to this thrift store because they have Thrifty Thursdays and it's 50% off. And then on this day I go to this thrift store because whatever. In terms of where to thrift, I want to say everywhere. You can find stuff everywhere, but in general, I stay away from super busy populated areas. So there's a thrift store in downtown Vancouver, not my fave. I barely ever go there. And any downtown, super urban area is going to be quite crowded, quite picked over. And just the more people there are in there at any given time, the more that people are going to buy the good stuff. That's why people are there, to buy the good stuff. I would say in terms of where, I would go to smaller, especially suburban towns. Higher cost of living areas are good, especially if they're not super populated. I would say to avoid rich neighborhoods, which is weird, but every rich neighborhood thrift store I've ever been to has ridiculously overpriced thrift store goods. You find stuff, but it's basically priced with comps. And I'm like, what am I doing here? So I used to, when we started reselling, I went to the areas of Vancouver that I knew to be wealthier, and I was like, I'm gonna find good stuff here. Nope, I did not. You basically just want smaller traffic in the areas that you're going in. And independent thrift stores are great. They have definitely by far the best pricing of thrift stores. So you want to check those out. But big chains have their place too, like Value Village and Goodwill. They often have a public bathroom, which is very nice. And they definitely have more selection. And so if you're trying to gain brand knowledge, going to a store like Value Village, you're going to have so many brands that you're going to be able to learn in one trip because they have a billion things for sale. What I would say about the where and when of thrifting, I have a tip, and that is if you don't find anything worth picking up in the first hour of you being there, switch stores. And I know depending on how rural of an area that you live in, that might not be possible. Maybe there isn't another thrift store nearby, or maybe you have to drive 45 minutes to the next one, and then by then you'd have to be home anyway. But I say just don't be afraid to abandon the thrift store if it's having a bad day, if it's totally been picked over, if just the donations were all happened to be from not very stylish people or people who take good care of their clothes or something. If you have nothing to show for an hour at a thrift store, I always leave. And that happens very rarely to me, but it's good to just all right, today is not this thrift store's day. Sometimes I'll drive to the next closest one. Sometimes I'll go back home. It's an off day. You can go though. You don't have to stay there and experience the entirety of the off day. You can remove yourself from that situation, and I suggest you do. Things to bring with you to the thrift store. Tip number 1, bring a little bag, but do not bring a backpack. There are a lot of thrift stores like the Value Village near me, you jerks, that will not let you have a backpack in your cart. And so I had to carry my backpack on my back, and you can bet my back was sweaty AF when I was done. And I was like, can I just leave this at the back with you or something then? And she was like, nope, you have to wear it. And I'd walked there, so I couldn't even put it in my car or anything. I was pissed at this chick. Stores in general don't like people walking around with backpacks. They're gonna watch you weirdly. And sometimes they're gonna be like, you can't have that in your cart or whatever. It has to be on your back or something. Weird rules around backpacks, so don't bring them. You could bring a big bag, like a big purse, probably, because there won't have like an official policy around it. I always bring 2 to 3 very large reusable bags. Take more than you need because they can condense down, and also because you don't want to have to buy one of their reusable bags. We all have like a million reusable bags, so just keep some in your car. Maybe even keep like a small little one in your purse that you can fold up a bunch. Don't leave without reusable bags because you're gonna miss them. Bring, yeah, comfortable shoes, bring headphones, bring water, bring whatever you're gonna need if you're gonna be there for a while. So I always also bring a charging block. This is like a portable charger for phones. My phones die a lot. It's because I play Pokemon on them and that drains your battery like nothing else. I also listen to audiobooks while I thrift, so that can drain the battery as well as taking video clips if I do that. So there's a lot of things that are going to drain your phone battery, and if you have a portable charger, I would recommend bringing one. I hate running out of phone battery and having to leave early because of that. For the love of God, wear comfortable shoes because the longer you're there, the more it hurts. Another 2 things that you could bring with you if you're shopping for yourself or for specific sizes, which isn't really a reseller thing, but if you are, you could bring a measuring tape with you and know your measurements and go with that. But as a reseller, something you can bring with you that would be helpful is a Tide to Go pen. Sometimes you see a stain and you're like, well, is it an easy stain I can get out? Or is it going to be like a really stubborn stain that won't go anywhere? So if you have a Tide to Go pen with you, you can see if the Tide to Go pen will lift a little bit of the stain. And if it does, then that's a really good sign that you're going to be able to get that stain out at home. Okay, let's go through some rapid fire tips. Touch everything. So you will get to know as you learn what different fabrics feel like. So you'll get to know, oh, that's probably linen because it's very hard to describe, but you will know as you, like, this is something I can't teach you. You got to go learn this yourself, but you will pick it up faster than you think you would have. I didn't know anything about fabrics when I started reselling, and now I can tell if something's leather or not by touching it. That's so helpful in the shoe section. Just like touch, 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 touch. You can feel if there's silk. You can feel if there's wool in sweaters. You can feel if there's linen in dresses and shirts. You can feel usually lots of natural fabrics and fibers. You'll get to know what they feel like. And also just, there's a feeling thing about nice clothes. Sometimes they're thicker, sometimes they seem more heavy duty, less flimsy, better stitching. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I'll touch something and it'll literally just be made of like viscose and acetate or whatever it's made of. But you'll touch it and you'll be like, that's nice. You can also like sort of get to know cashmere, polyester, or wool or whatever material. So just touch everything. Like just run your hands over things. Even if you're just gonna skim that aisle, just run your hands over it. Sometimes you can feel things like shoulder pads in the dresses, and then you're like, oh, probably a vintage dress. Or you can feel things like, oh, that's a really nice fabric. Just touch everything because that's often how you can tell the nicer things. Do not avoid wrinkles. Wrinkles can be a very good thing. A lot of higher end materials, especially linen and silk, are very prone to wrinkles. But then also, thrift stores are, no offense, not the brightest. And so if something's wrinkled, they're like, this isn't in very good condition. You can easily steam out wrinkles and then it's back to new. But they don't really see it that way. They're like, oh, look how wrinkled and crappy this looks. And so they often price it lower than it should be. So if you see wrinkled items, don't think like, oh, I should skip that one. I often think, wrinkles. What do we got here? It's obviously not a foolproof method for finding stuff, but I think wrinkles are a great thing. Another thing to look for is items that don't have their back of neck brand tag. If it's been cut out, if it's just straight up not there, I always check for other identifying features brand-wise or for their care tag. So a lot of brands will have their brand name on the care tag, or you can sometimes tell. Like if you look at it enough, you'll know. If it's an AEFFE, you know it's like maybe Moschino or like one of those other, I think John Gauthier also uses that very high-end brand because that is like a distributor for a bunch of very high-end brands. Yeah, but often Value Village employees, they have a ton of stuff to sort or Goodwill or whatever. They're not going to go through and check the care tags of everything to make sure they're not missing anything valuable. I found so many gems this way. I found a Roberto Cavalli maxi dress this way. It had its back of neck tag cut out, but it still had its holographic tag and the care tag down in by like the side seam, and they had it at $8 for this dress, which we sold for $100 because it was a Roberto Cavalli dress. So I think of them as like green flags. Like, yes, I need to spend an extra second here and look into what this is. Which sections do I recommend you go to? Well, I recommend you start with whatever your best selling items are. So for me, that's shoes, and then it's jackets, and then it's dresses. So I always check out those sections. Not just your best selling items, but your items that sell for more money because you don't want to waste your time. Even designer tank tops aren't even worth that much. You just want to go for more substantial pieces. And I say substantial all the time. And just what I mean by that is like an investment piece. Like, what would you be willing to pay more money for in your wardrobe? A Gucci tank top or a Gucci trench coat? Like, it's not a contest. You're willing to invest more in things like outerwear and jackets and high-end fabrics, high-end brand labels. You invest more in shoes because you walk on those and your feet matter, and you just own less of them than t-shirts. We have like 2 or 3 jackets because those are the nice ones and we wear those regularly and repeatedly. So people invest more in things like that, like purses, jackets, dresses often because they're for special occasions, but people aren't willing to put as much money into, say, a pair of shorts or things like that. So think about what you would spend money on your wardrobe, like what's something you'd splurge for, and go to those sections. Additionally, if your thrift store that you're going to has change rooms or some sort of like put back rack or return rack, I would beeline it right there. Nothing in my area has this anymore. All the change rooms went away and then they never came back. So I never do this. But if you do have this is a great tip. If someone already picked something out and wanted to try it on and then they left it in the change room, there's a good chance that was a decent item. Like someone else deemed it worthy to try on. So I would definitely go and check that section for little gems and good things. And if there's a put back rack, I would check that too. A lot of people say to check the new racks, and they are not wrong. In Value Village, there are red racks, and they put them at the end of the aisles and then slowly put them in the sections they go in. Walk up to one and look through it unless you're getting in an employee's way. Don't get in the employee's way. Don't piss off the employees. You want them on your side for various reasons, but if you're not in anyone's way, and if you're not like shoving other shoppers out of the way to do it, I would check the new racks whenever they come out. More thrift store tips that I have to do with stains and flaws. So let's go over very quickly, and you will, even despite these tips, you will and I will in the future from this point on miss flaws. It'll happen to everyone. It's not the end of the world. But how do you check for them? So you're going to want to look for stains. You're going to want to look for rips and holes. You want to look for pilling. Pilling looks like this. Pilling. It's when it's often on sweaters and wool and stuff. The fabric bunches up from use. It's often on Lululemon leggings in the crotch area. Now, don't not buy something because of pilling, because pilling can be removed with a sweater shaver. I basically think of those things as little magic. But if something is incredibly pilled, or if it's like pilled all over it really evenly, that can be really hard to remove. You want to look for, do the zippers work? If it's a shoe, bend it every time because you don't know if the soles are going to have a crack in it or something. You want to look for puckering in jeans when around the zipper and around the crotch area there's like little horizontal lines. Bad. That means don't buy them. If there's an elastic band in whenever you're buying, stretch it. If it makes a crinkling sound, that item is dead. There is no saving that. That elastic band is well past its prime. Do not pick it up. You also want to look for fabric pulls or snags or things like that. Make sure that if whoever it was put a tag in there, they didn't rip a little hole in your item, that now you have to disclose the hole because they decided to put their tag on the back of the shirt instead of on the brand tag, which thanks for doing that. But you want to be careful about that. Something that you can do, especially for lighter colored items or thinner items, you can hold them up to the light and then you'll be able to see a little bit easier if there's any holes in it. And you can also use that to see like, all right, is there any discolorations or things like that? Also check the pockets. The pockets might have holes, but also the pockets might have money. So don't forget to check any pockets if you're shopping for like a purse, jeans, jackets, anything with pockets. Put your hand in that pocket, especially because if you're selling that item and there's something gross in there like a tissue, you do not want to ship that to your buyer. So whenever something has pockets and I'm considering buying it, I stick my hand in there. Sometimes you get like a $10 bill and you're like, hey, and then sometimes it's like a used Band-Aid and you're like, oh. But them's the breaks. It's about finding lots and lots of bad stuff and a few really good gems. If you are having trouble identifying a brand on anything, I would recommend checking the buttons for a brand name, check any metal hardware. If you're looking at jeans and it doesn't have the brand tag in the back for some reason, check the button at the top of the fly. That usually has a branded name around it. These are good options if you're like, I can't figure out what this is, but it seems good. Look at all the hardware and stuff. Also, care tags can again have brand names on them, so check there as well. Something else I look at, like I give like a second glance to and spend a bit more time on usually, is something that's been put away in the wrong section. So a men's clothing in the women's section, or vice versa, women's in the men's section, or if there is a skirt in the jeans section, something like that. Often what that tells me is either one of a few things happened here. One, someone put this away wrong and it was just a mistake. But the other two options are someone had this in their cart and then put it back and they just decided to put it back wherever the heck they were in the store. Or perhaps an employee put that in the wrong section on purpose because they're not allowed to buy things within however many days of them getting it. So I often think maybe this is in the wrong section on purpose because someone did not want others to find it. Just there's something wonky going on with it. Something notable is happening. It's not where it's supposed to be. I'm going to take an extra second and make sure this isn't something extra cool. Another tip, and you probably didn't see this coming, but check comps. So the way I do things at the thrift store is I go and I look through things. I put things in my cart that I'm interested in. I do not check comps right then and there. Then I go to the furniture section and I take a seat because my feet hurt. They have chairs in the furniture section, so I sit in one of their chairs and I look up comps there. Check comps for things that I haven't heard of before. I check comps for things that I have heard of before, but I'm not sure if comps have changed. I check comps for anything I'm gonna buy, honestly, unless I'm having a very, very lazy time or if I'm extremely cocky that I know what the comps are for that item, which actually happens a bit more than it should. But do as I say and not as I do and check comps. Always a good one. Okay, so now let's talk about, we've talked about some tips, we've talked about where and when to thrift. Let's talk about like the general approach I would have if I was a true beginner. I'm just starting. I don't know anything about reselling, especially I don't know anything about clothing. How do I go about doing this? How do I even start tackling this? Well, first of all, don't build it up in your head as something that's like scary or you need like super skills to do. Anyone can thrift. You have Google, right? You have access to Poshmark on your phone. You have access to eBay on your phone. You can check comps in store. So there's nothing that like a seasoned reseller can do that you can't. If you both find something and they know it's a good thing and just pick it up, but you haven't heard of it, Google it. That's what you're there for. So I would actually say to throw efficiency completely out the window for your first few months of thrifting. It is good to be efficient, obviously, but you are new at this and you are learning as much as you can. So I would say do not skim or skip sections of aisles. Don't like only shop the new tag. Don't do any of those like hacks or efficiency tips when you're starting out. I think it's super important to look through everything because you're going to build up some skills that are going to run you through years of reselling. When you skip things also, you tend to miss some of the gems that way. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm like, oh, these look like Lululemon leggings, they're Old Navy. They're Old Navy every freaking time. And I'm like, screw you, Old Navy. Why are you making Lululemon leggings? So don't assume that you can like, oh, I'm going to be able to know and like just pick out the good things. Honestly, I've never found that. What you want to work on instead is knowing what you're looking at. So if you're going to go through everything and you're going to go through everything quickly, you want to know at a glance what brand that is and whether or not you're going to want to think about it or not. What you get by going through each and every item is you get really familiar with all the clothing brands. So like now when I go through the store, I'll see like, oh, I can barely just make out the E on the end of this tag, and I happen to know that that's the font for the garage tag, and that's the like color of it. So that's a garage item. Next, you get to know, oh, that's obviously the American Eagle tag. You don't even have to like read it out. You can just be like, navy bluish tag with white writing, American Eagle. You get to know all the different symbols and stuff. So like in my area, when I'm going through leggings, I know that this flower symbol means tough athletics, which means go F yourself. I want you to do your research before you go in the thrift store. And another thing I want you to do before you go in the thrift store is to have a little talk with yourself about profit. It doesn't matter what profit model you're doing, if you're doing a percentage of what you paid, if you're doing like we do a dollar amount. We try and get $25 per item that we pick up at minimum. It doesn't matter if you're doing like, I want to at least be able to sell things for $50 or higher. However you're doing things, have that idea before you go in. Because if you go in there and you find stuff and you're like, $6 for these American Eagle jeans, I happen to know that they sell these for like $75 in the store. So that's a huge difference. Yes, it is a huge difference. But you're only going to be able to list American Eagle jeans unless they're extremely trendy or new at tags or something like that for like $30, $35. And then once you subtract offers and then platform fees and then whatever other costs of operating your business, you're only making, say, I don't know, $15 off of that, even if it started as low as $6.99 or whatever. So you want to have an idea of a profit model that you're going to base your business off of going into it. If something costs this much, how much am I going to list it for? And if I list it for this much, how much is it actually going to sell for? And I have a video on that. I think it's called like my number one thrifting tip or my number one tip ever. Something like that. If Ethan could link it up here, that would be great. This is something you want to know beforehand. And then also you want to do the bulk of your research in terms of brands, bolos, things like that beforehand. And then you'll be able to Google whatever you do find when you're there. So Google is your friend. I know it's not efficient to Google everything you've never heard of, but every single time you do that, so you look up like Time and True. When you looked it up, you realize, oh, that's a Target brand. So I can probably safely ignore that from now on for reselling purposes. And then you look up another brand like, oh, I've never heard of that person's name. Do they happen to be a really high-end brand name? Like, oh, Robert Graham. Hey, these shirts have good resale value on eBay. Like, that's good to know. So I want you to put in the investment of time at the beginning, and then hopefully you'll be able to build up. Have you heard of this brand? Yes. And you'll be able to go through things like, I know what all this is and roughly what it is worth. I know that sounds like a lot to know, but like every fifth thing in there is going to be from like Walmart or Joe Fresh or Shein or one of those brands. You're going to find a lot of, none of those are interesting to me, but I recognize their tags really, really quickly and just scoop right past them because I know what it is. You're there to source, but you are there to learn and build some really good, like a big giant catalog of knowledge about brands, about fabrics, about styles, and things like that that will sell well for you in your closet. So that's my like general overall, like how to attack it kind of advice. Another like tip thing I want you to think about in an overall sense is it's not about what you pick up. It is about what you leave behind. You want to leave behind so much more than you pick up. When you see me thrifting a bunch of Lululemon, yes, I do buy a bunch of Lululemon, but I leave behind more. Same with Aritzia. I buy a bunch of Aritzia, but I leave behind way more of it. Even very high-end brands, there are very few brands that I would say to you, yeah, there's almost no circumstance that I wouldn't pick this up. It's going to be just the best of the best of the best. But you want to be really thorough checking for flaws. You are going to miss them, and that is going to be okay. But just check every inch, check all the seams, check all the weak points, especially of shoes and of jeans. Leggings, it's the crotch. Make sure you check that area. And check the inside as well. This is very gross, but if there's discoloration on the inside of bottoms, do not buy that. And I don't want to talk about this anymore because it's happened to me before and I hate it. Okay, just check all the areas. On jeans, another good spot to check is the bottom hem. That's often where the jeans get worn down, especially on short people like me who drag them on the floor. The more you thrift and the more you get good at this, the higher and higher you're going to be raising your bar for things you're going to pick up to resell. So just pre-raise that bar in your head. Just be like, I know I'm going to find a lot of stuff that I will have heard of before. I'm going to find probably some Anthropologie. I'm probably going to find some Aritzia. I'm probably going to find some COS, or I might find some Madewell or Vince or a bunch of those like Bolo brands that have been around a while. I'm very picky with all of those brands. So you should be too, because the reason that resellers get pickier and pickier as they go is because they learn, oh, that sat for a long time. Oh, this thing. So you get pickier and you don't want to pick up things that are like a really uncommon size, like shoes that are smaller than a size 6. It's gonna have to be Louis Vuitton if I'm gonna buy that, or like it's gonna have to be John Fleabag or like something very good. However, those sections can often be picked through less because less people have that shoe size. And my last tip for you is to leave just before you start hating it. And if you're like me and you never start to hate it, leave just before your body starts to hate it. So you feel like you could keep going, but only maybe for like another 20 or 30 minutes. That's a good time to check out. You want it to be a positive experience. You don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to like pull a muscle or something. I know this sounds, but I'm getting old, you guys, and sometimes I've legitimately like my back is sore because I thrifted too long yesterday. So leave just before you start to hate it, and then it will always feel fresh and exciting for you the next time that you go. Yes, so these are some of my best sourcing, especially thrifting tips. Let me know in the comments what is your #1 favorite thrifting tip, and we can all share with each other. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.